there were even mechanical mistakes that we're not used to seeing from him, like backwards Xayah ultimates and stuff like that. So definitely going to be a close magnifying glass on him, considering the meta right now and considering his standing.
And we talked about PowerOfEvil being one of the big carries for Misfits. Already Team WWE showing their respect towards Orianna being banned away. One of his biggest comfort picks, but also a bit of a target ban towards IgNar. He did bring out things like the Blitzcrank, like the Thresh, very well known for him within Europe.
I do like that ban away from WWE. Have clearly done their homework. Misfits take away Kalista, who continues to stay in her exclusive club of 100% presence. And Rakan actually banned away from Ben. So a couple of supports being targeted here. And Gnar will actually be the final ban there for WWE.
And the most surprising one to me is that Blitzcrank. Because you mentioned, yeah, it's his target ban. IgNar had a lot of success on it. You have to have a lot of respect for that in the current state of the game with Ardent Sensor to ban out of Blitzcrank. And they just want to remove some surprise options. Even if they feel maybe that it's a low percentage chance to turn the game, they're getting that one out of there.
But think about what's left available right now. Sejuani, Jarvan, Tristana, Lulu, Janna, so many strong
Free for all, everybody grab them.
Yeah, that whole 100% pick ban is now very heavily going to be affected when there are so many power picks available. And I'm expecting Misfits to go for the Sejuani Tristana right now. Big comfort picks, especially for Hansama, and I think that is very important for him, especially a rookie on the international stage.
And with the Cogmore ban and that Jarvan pick there for WE, I am a little surprised to not see Xayah being pushed up higher, especially for Mystic. But maybe WE think that the preference is on something like the Trist, so we'll see what Misfits lock in here and see what WE get on the back end. There's the Trist, so if WE read it right, they will get Xayah, which has been a big pick for them all tournament long.
Yeah, Tristana, as you mentioned, Vedius, we often see it picked into Jarvan. So many options, so many answers for that one, whether it is a top lane or a jungle Jarvan. Regardless, the beautiful pairing here, the double Yordles, everybody's known and come to love them.
But also one of the big picks that I'm just remembering now is Galio. Something that Chinese teams absolutely love is Jarvan, Galio, Sejuani, because if you want to dive onto the backline comp, that is exactly perfect for it.
You know what we want to see to top it all off? Is the rumble that they also use when you switch the Jarvan down into the jungle, have the mid lane Galio, and then put a rumble top lane. That's when we really get the full painting of all these combinations of ultimates, and you get those super heavy theory crafted multiple layers for those giant engagements.
Who could forget that massive wombo combo from the play-ins? It was Team WE that obliterated Young Generations in an instant, and the LPL teams definitely know how to play dive comp.
Yeah, Xiye big on the Galio. Again, loves to add to that plan of protecting Mystic, who will get the Xayah paired next to the Janna this time, so didn't want to give away kind of the other premier Ardent Sensor support, or defensive support, I should say, wanting to steal that Janna away before it could be banned. That does leave Galio on the vulnerable list, and Sejuani now to Misfits. So 6 very strong picks in this draft.
And the thing here, to me, the differentiation between Lulu and Janna, a big part of it is how easily Janna can apply Ardent Sensor to multiple people. And that actually is becoming a very big thing in the meta right now, especially as, a jungler. I like to play other attack speed oriented champions. It's not just about Ardent Sensor on your AD carry. Jarvan is going to apply some extra attack speed here with the flag. Janna can apply AoE Ardent Sensors. So if you get multiple champions based around attack speed, then you can really synergize even more people. There's one of them though. Sejuani is going to be picked up by Misfits. Maxlore going to be happy to have that one.
Cassio banned as well by Misfits, so a few eyes towards the mid lane there for Xiye. WE, very careful consideration, turning away Syndra from PowerOfEvil, another signature pick for the man.
Now we're looking at things like Corki and Lucian really rising in value. I feel like Taliyah, a champion that we've seen a fair amount, especially from the Korean representatives, but in Europe it's not really been a popular pick. Ever since the mana nerfs to her Q, she kind of fell off, and Corki really become the next big thing. Aurelion Sol for some as well, but against teams like Team WE, already showing that respect. How can you forget the Lucian from Xiye versus Faker at MSI?
Well, do ban it away, but that leaves kind of those more utility picks for Xiye, who does play, as you mentioned, the Galio, but also Taliyah. Again, sticking with the theme, but a Galio ban from WE is actually going to take that option away.
I think it makes a lot of sense because you saw the Lucian ban away from Misfits. You think this is one of the best answers to a Galio, so they're afraid of the early lock-in of the Galio for the side of Misfits.
What I'm also thinking here is that since Misfits have the very last pick and could counter pick, Kassadin, even though they're hovering Corki right now, they could hold on to the counter pick and maybe bring that one out with Lucian off the table. Not going to be the case here as Corki is eventually locked in, but that is going to give an opening.
For Misfits, I think something that Hussein, their coach who has a lot of control during the draft, he's thinking about making sure that Alphari and Hansama get comfort picks. Bear in mind, this is their first time playing on an international stage, and also they're playing at the World Championship against a very strong team in Team WE. So he knows that PowerOfEvil can just be safe on the Corki and mid. He has that experience, but they do not want to, they want to make sure that Alphari and Hansama are in a comfortable spot.
Well, there's the Maokai for 957, going to add some front line to their team. And now we just have to see where Xiye wants to go. Does he want to take something like Taliyah? Does he want to take the Kassadin, which is a historical pick for him as well? Again, assuming that mid lane is Corki, which is almost always going to be the case. Xiye, does he go defensive? Does he go aggressive? Right now, hovering that LeBlanc, and they're going to lock it in.
You can hear the crowd get excited. They're looking forward to seeing Xiye step up in front of Wuhan's
As
40.
soon as I see a champion like this, too, that does bring with it some of the risks of not quite as good in the team fights later in the game, I'm thinking early game and jungle pass. There are a lot of options with LeBlanc for creative junglers. Condi does get the Jarvan, who has huge mobility, and multiple jungle paths. You can even start red, go for level 2s, trying to burn summoners and gain momentum that way. I would think instantly he would want to play around Xiye, around this LeBlanc.
Well, last pick is Cho'Gath there for Misfits, so trading those big two tanks back and forth. I think teams will slightly differ on priority. Some like Cho'Gath more than Maokai, some like Maokai, and of course, comps will depend as well. But other than that, very standard stuff here. I think the mid lanes really are only big wildcard, and maybe Condi having a bit more early game pressure on the Jarvan. They did first pick it, so we'll see exactly what kind of influence he can have.
And when you look at these comps, they fit very much with the styles of both teams, because the thing about Team WE, as you mentioned, Kobe, Condi has the ability to get early leads, but it's not something that Team WE rely on. It's not something that they play the whole game around. It's just an option that Condi is good at utilizing to just set up his laners for success, to better then set them up for team fights, which is the true strength of this team. Whereas Misfits, they've often been considered kind of like a budget G2. They prefer the slow macro style of play, but I think that's going to be dangerous playing up against a team that is so renowned for their ability to team fight.
Well, certainly will be troublesome, as Wuhan has come alive with WE taking to the stage for day 2 here of groups. Certainly a important game here for both. See exactly how it all lines up. I think both teams should be happy with the picks they've got. Lots of comfort. You mentioned it for Misfits, Vedius, but a lot of expected things here for WE as well. Now it's just a matter of seeing how their play looks right now, because they'll be tested here on the Rift.
One thing a little bit out of the ordinary here for Misfits, they've got an Ignite in the bottom lane. Everybody's been trending towards a barrier on the AD carry and the heal on the support, just because it's so focused around farming early game and trying to build up to that late game. But there is a bit of extra damage there, so we may see some more offensive moves and maybe some bottom lane focus for Misfits with the Ignite.
The one thing you can say about IgNar is he likes to get in your face. He's known for roaming around the map. He doesn't typically sit in the bottom lane. He likes to try and have impact elsewhere, especially with Maxlore if he can. But on the Lulu, he's saying, okay, if I'm going to be relegated to 2v2, I may as well have some fun.
Get up in his face and throw some glitter in it.
See, yes, he does also have the aggressive Keystone as well with Thunderlord, so IgNar certainly going to be playing pretty aggressive in the duo lane. Right now, though, WE moving 3 strong up the north side of the river. Might spot Alphari here as 957 gonna prime a sapling. Just walks into the brush for now. Good ward from Alphari, but it's gonna go down. 10 gold to Xiye.
10 gold and a very little bit of experience also picked up.
Not irrelevant, but probably shouldn't matter too much here as Misfits counter back with a ward of their own. Not quite as deep as they might have liked. And now some extra wards here from IgNar and Hansama. Only one hit there onto Mystic's ward, and again, teams have spread out, and nothing too surprising here for the early jungle starts.
So Hansama and IgNar appearing in the tri-brush at the bottom lane gives a lot of information to both teams, because they should now know where the enemy junglers are starting, and that's going to give a bit of freedom for Hansama and IgNar to play a little bit more in the face of Team WE in this 2 versus 2.
Also, just kind of gleaning a little information that we have in this game so far since it just started, is Sejuani with a slightly abnormal start here, the Talisman. Usually we'll see Sejuani's nowadays start with the Hunter's Machete, and you go buff, into buff into Gromp to get your level 3, and then go for Scuttle Crab, utilizing this single target extra speed that she can get, and especially with her passive proc. However, with the Talisman, it allows them to change the route, go for the Raptors, because you can get the AoE, very big burn, and life leech off of them. And now he's going for a more secure clear here with the Sejuani, and we'll end up with multiple camps before heading into the jungle. See if Condi actually is able to get his double buffs and then get out a little bit earlier.
It is important to note that both junglers starting on the same side means they end up on the same side, looking to maybe make something happen here in the bot side. Maxlore will take down the Scuttle Crab, very easy for Sejuani with the permafrost. And now going to move back onto blue buff again, kind of emphasizing what you just said, Kobe. Very safe start here for Maxlore.
Exactly. Even though he's going with a bit bigger of a clear, trying to get the Raptor camp and the Wolf camp early on so that they respawn earlier for him, he wants to get the Scuttle Crab vision for his pushing bottom lane before returning to the blue buff here. So Maxlore, a pretty efficient route considering he was also able to check the boxes here for the bottom lane. We talked about IgNar and the Ignite and the Thunderlords. They obviously want to push and pressure down there, so he's just giving that extra little bit of jungle support to allow them that.
And we're talking a lot about the junglers because they're going to be extremely important for setting up the carries for both these teams. As Condi is making his way up to the top side, he will be spotted out by a ward. And it looks like he's just going to back away. But yeah, backtracking to these junglers, they're going to play a key role in setting up some of the core carries of both these sides. And when you look at Misfits, you're thinking of a player like PowerOfEvil, and for Team WE, you're thinking of players like Mystic.
Yeah, there are some stats for you on the screen of two of the big damage percentage contributors here for each team. PowerOfEvil, we talked about, he was also receiving a lot of jungle attention from Maxlore and really getting off to a good start, which allowed him to put in a lot of these numbers. And Mystic as well from the bottom side. Definitely with Xayah as well, feels comfortable and set up to do the same.
And there were a lot of question marks around players like Mystic in the play-ins, largely due to his laning phase. A lot of analysts felt like that he wasn't that standout, and while his team fights were certainly good, it was nothing impressive. But I feel like that coming into the World Championships and coming into now a bigger stage and much higher level of competition, I'm expecting a lot more from him, because after talking to some of the teams, I feel like he wasn't playing at the highest level during the playing stage.
Meanwhile, we had a little bit of extra vision left in the jungle there by Team WE when Condi went to steal away those Krugs. Now he's in bottom lane, waiting for Hansama to check.
Oh, Slow not going to land. He gets him through the rocket shot, forcing the flash. Very cute play from Condi.
Hansama a little bit quick to jump there. Didn't quite time it properly. He didn't get the buffer correct, which means that he still ends up getting knocked up. He's now going to lose both of his summoner spells in the 2 versus 2. And we talked about the impact of these junglers on these carries. Mystic now going to be in a much favorable position.
Yeah, can't really get away from Jarvan, and Condi with a very successful gank. Double summoners. Remember, those are the defensive summoners for the bottom lane. No barrier for them at all. We'll see if the Ignite does come into play, because Condi's coming back for more.
This is something that I've certainly seen before from WE. Condi looking for the revisit here as Mystic and Ben sort of back away. Condi gonna do a bit of jungling while he has some time. No need to really spend too much time here while he can be farming. And Hansama and Ignite, I think, playing with respect now that those have gone down. But you can see Condi's stats just incredible. His plan was very successful despite Worldly maybe not looking as strong as we'd expect. Condi certainly was.
And this is what we talked about very much. He is one of those early setup plays. He tries to get his team early leads, but it's not something that the team relies on necessarily. It's not something that they have to have in order for the team to win. And Condi, he's just such a big facilitator, and he's had so much praise that he's already been able to set up his bottom lane for success. Now let's see if he can do it in the mid, because Xiye on this LeBlanc. We all talk about LeBlanc being this assassin and how she wants to be roaming around the map, have that sort of early lead, have that early pressure. Right now, Xiye is doing well in terms of the laning phase, but now we want to see him make these map movements as he's already doing in the river.
Yeah, he's rewarded with some honey fruits. Used the clone there to slightly delay the minion wave from getting there, and looking and scouting for the jungler camps to keep track of Maxlore's clear speed.
Nice as well from Alphari to pay the respect as Xiye went left. No successful roam this time around. PoE has also used his teleport already, so he's going to have no more freebies back to lane. Xiye going to last hit these, and I think both mid laners will take it back. Certainly PowerOfEvil will with the Hex Drinker done, and Xiye maybe going roaming instead.
Like the respect being shown from PowerOfEvil. It will delay his Stream Force spike a little bit, but it makes the laning phase so much easier for the Corki. And I also want to highlight some of the vision being set up from both parties. A lot of it invested, around the bottom side of the map. Already double control ward from both sides, and their priority is making sure that neither of the 2 versus 2s get snowballed upon by either jungler.
Sunny skies down there. Everybody just farming up those bitcoins.
Well, Mystic returns to the lane. Shield on the turret there for Vedius to prevent a little bit of damage. And a BF sub for Mystic versus the same for Hans Summer. Again, slightly different starts there as far as itemization goes. And hitting in a brush here for IgNar. WE, they're just going to play it safe. And again, Misfits playing very safe here, very respectful, and a ton of controllers. There were 3 down the line, but Hans Summer just placed his. 2 though for both Maxlore and PoE, mean that Misfits again just want to play safe. This is a team that does not want to fall behind, but happy to play even.
Yeah, now that we do have the BF swords, a little bit of extra damage coming through, and the ultimate's available, maybe Condi is going to be able to revisit and create something. You know, he's walking away from those wards, comes through the lane, doesn't want to walk anywhere near Tribush, himself level 6 with red buff. This would be kind of the perfect storm if they could actually nail someone down. But again, Tristana hard to force on, especially with a Lulu at her back.
Defensive control ward cleared out by Mystic and Ben. That does give Condi leverage to sneak into both brushes if he wants, but again, just going to farm the Krogs, not waste too much time. As Alphari does take the speed trying to the right, getting that Scuttle Crab, and going to hit a Sapphire on the way back to the lane, but not a huge deal here for these top laners who are nice and even in CS.
Seeing a lot of this, gentlemen, a lot of slow early games, into progressive farming, all about the item spikes. And the one thing you can say about LPL teams for certain is they love to utilize those item spikes. So you really need to keep your eyes on players like Xiye and Mystic, because once they hit those first items, that's where they're going to look to be as proactive as possible. And that's really where they turn on. And we're going to see how Misfits handle that, because as a team, they often struggle when they fall into early deficits. Throughout the regular season and throughout playoffs, they had a 3-11 win to loss record whenever they were at any kind of deficit at 20 minutes. So the fact that they're off to a bit of a lead right now, certainly favorable if you're a European fan.
That 300 gold though, oh, 200.
10 minutes to go though, don't forget.
There's still a lot of time.
Certainly the slow early game going to help with staying even keel.
Where are the Gigabyte Marines when you need them?
Coming up in 2 games time, Kobe.
Oh baby.
Well, for the time being, a little bit more vision being invested from Misfits towards the top side of the map. Rift Herald will be spawning, and Maxlore, he's taking a bit of a creative route, but will be spotted out.
Nice bit of vision there from WE. Sweeper does not find it either. Not sure where that came from. Could have been some fruit, or could have just been my eyes deceiving me. Maxlore, though, is going to slap down the Scryers. Boom, cleared that out of the way from WE's side of the map. And the holding pattern will continue as Maxlore gets good vision here on the left side.
Deep vision is definitely the first step. Remember, we do have 4 teleports available in this game, all of them off cooldown right now. So as much as we're talking about these wards kind of casually, they're just a setup, and any of those could explode into multiple people joining these fights. Down bottom side again, bottom lane for WE is pushing in. Condi heads down to the bottom side. You know, he's pinging already for some deep vision of his own. They might even be able to set up for some extra control here. Scuttle Crab into a pretty seamless dragon take if they want it.
You can see the pings coming out from Misfits. They're very aware of Condi being in the bottom half of the map, but also for the bottom lane of Misfits. This is a big concern because they went for the Lulu. They even have the Thunderlords. Note the fervor for battle on Hans Sama as well. Bit of a risky keystone to take, simply because during the laning phase, it really isn't that valuable. It makes the lane so much harder. But look at mid.
Great chunk by PoE. Oh, I think that climb blocked a missile. Xiye lives to tell the tale this time.
Block out some of that damage. Here comes Condi. He looked like he wanted to get some of those minions, but PowerOfEvil chases him off as well. Staking claim here to the mid lane.
Very nice play. She is going to return with a bit more power though. Sheen and the Hex Drinker there for PoE, and now that Hextech Revolver being worked on has got the 2 little components, the Revolver and the Cutlass. Just needs to combine them into a Gunblade. Somehow that's what that makes into, but certainly a very good LeBlanc item here. Xiye should have that one in short order.
You just put the Hex Drink on top of the sword.
Ah!
Bit of tape, all good to go. But again, we're always looking at this vision, we're always looking at the potential for possible TV blanks, and you're also looking at some of the objectives that are on the board. Unfortunately, it is another Cloud Drake, not the highest of priority for either side, but also, again, like, it's a little concerning that Misfits bottom lane is struggling so much after that early ganks we saw from Condi and Maxlore. He hasn't really tried to mimic any kind of pressure. His focus has just been farming up and trying to get those items as fast as he can.
Yeah, I mean, I believe he's still, to this point, dealt 0 damage to champions, as he hasn't really interacted with anyone on the Sejuani. But we do have the Ardent Sensors coming through now, boys.
Riveting.
As those have been completed, we get the extra attack speed coming down, more damage. So there's possibilities here of actually pressuring turrets, and that might be where it does explode. Alphari again pushes up his lane, looks for the Scuttle Crab, and he's going to be able to grab this one too.
No feast, unfortunately for him, but an easy take. And Abyssal Mask there for Alphari. So righteous glory first in the last game, but certainly needs a bit more defense versus LeBlanc and of course his lane opponent in Maokai. Xiye, though, has been kind of pushing the wave and threatening a potential pick. We saw PoE do a nice job in a 1v1 earlier, but Xiye with the jump is going to be potent, especially once he completes his first item. PoE will also be delayed on that Trinity Force, but doesn't need the influence of the Hex Drinker. So a lot is brewing here as we move past 13 minutes, but the leisurely pace of the game does continue for now. You're not that leisurely in bottom lane. Mystic playing very far up. Knows that Ben with the Ardent Sensor can just give him so much extra stats.
Love that target focus from Mystic there. Note how Handsummer was too preoccupied with the minion wave and also had the shield on him. So Mystic said, well, I'm just going to hit the support then. You're a very squishy Lulu, I can chunk you out. And that's going to force him back, which then allows them to start being aggressive onto Handsummer. Just a very small trade went in the favor of Mystic, and they're just going to continue to push down onto this tower as a bit more defensive vision now coming out from Misfits in the bottom lane. But the game's still dead even. Misfits not expected to have a strong performance at Worlds. Still a lot of the game left to go, but they're considered one of the big underdogs in this group. We talked a little bit earlier on about why they are considered that, especially when you think about this team. It was the MSI group stages. This was TSM, Flash Wolves, and Team WWE that all went head-to-head at MSI Brazil.
Oh, great knock up though on a Mystic. Featherstorm's out of the way, gets the angle on a Handsummer as the TP is down. Handsummer's going to be forced out. More TPs in the bot side as Misfits burn and cancel too.
So there also were both TPs from WEUs. They were just on top of each other. So now we have removed all of the extra players from this bottom lane game. Condi wants to turn the tides here as, again, Jarvan's going to sneak in. Ben throws down the control ward so he can move up, but it doesn't look like the Misfits are going to overextend anytime soon. Drake, though, did go down in that, and that's the biggest difference we've had so far. Cloud Drake picked up for Team WE.
Oh, but look at Xiye. He's on his way down as well. This ward will spot him out, and Misfits are like, this could be bad.
Xiye turns around, though. Looks like the Misfits may have backed up pretty early. Xiye with the Gunblade, certainly looking to get his roam going. Might jump in off the PoE, gets back his PowerOfEvil with the package. Is going to threaten in tandem with Maxlore as they take down that control ward. And he can, again, start to see, despite the very deliberate pace in these first 50 minutes, teams are starting to get a bit there. It's Condi, wants it, dunks IgNar, gets the ulti down, gonna keep slapping him away. IgNar already burnt the flashes, and Monty from Beth gonna keep it going. A Mystic, he's the one to grab first blood, but Maxlore misses the ulti just barely. Mystic with a fast flash to get out of that one.
And Misfits, they face check the Bush. They even pinged it, expecting him to be in there, but IgNar flashed way too early, and Condi punishes it. Uses the EQ, locks him in the baby cage, and WE, they're able to get themselves their first kill of the game.
Yep, if you flash early against Jarvan, he's just gonna dunk you. And here's the double knock-up. He lines it up for the Lulu as well as Tristana, and IgNar used his flash, so in comes the Cataclysm, buys enough time for the DPS to work here. Mystic flashing very early on that one, might have even been considering flashing before he saw the ultimate come out, and able to get away after that. A lot of summoners were blown in the bottom side, but the big gold bonus doesn't mean a whole bunch in the game at this moment. Meanwhile, Condi, though, the objective focus has really been a big difference here. Gets the Drake as well as being able to walk right up to the Rift Herald, and seems to be able to take that one uncontested.
And one of the big carries for Team WE now has a kill under his belt. Essence Reaver completed too. Mystic, one of the big players that we were going to be watching to see how he progresses throughout the game, is now set up for success.
His counterpart in this game, PowerOfEvil, also just finished his Trinity Force with Condi, able to grab the Rift Herald for his squad. And IE is also completed for Handsummer's Tristana. So again, a lot of this kind of slower paced game, all that farming early on. Despite the first blood for WE, the gold stays dead even, and the items are starting to creep up on these carries. And again, WE, if they can convert the objectives that they are starting to get into more, we'll see just where Condi can use this Rift Herald, because that's kind of been the sacrifice in some ways. The only advantage WE have really gotten is not reflected in the gold, it is in these objectives that they're taking.
I think it's for Misfits. I felt like that they had an opportunity early on to get ahead in this game. If they had simply just swapped from bot up to the top lane, because we see that Alphari has been consistently pushing 957 underneath his turret. That tower is already at about 50% HP, and they could have just avoided the potential dive and gotten themselves a very early objective. Instead, they chose to stay in the 2 versus 2. They allowed Team WE to punish on the overextension of IgNar, and they're the ones that now have the Rift Herald. They're the ones that are setting up to get themselves the first tower of the game.
Setting up for this blue buff as well, as one to get stolen away by Misfits. Not up right now. In fact, Xiye is lining up a dive instead. Is spotted on a ward, and PowerOfEvil is hot on his heels, but Xiye dives in, gets IgNar with a 10, and that's going to be a kill.
Great focus on the summonerless Lulu right there. And that's going to be the first turret as well without the Rift Herald being expended. So WE can keep that one in their pockets and try to chain this momentum. So often in this meta right now, when Ardent Sensors are completed, as soon as one turret falls, they can then swap the AD carry and support to another lane and chain outer turret takes. But WE don't even have to do that. They're still pushing in the same lane. And you can see with that extra attack speed, Xayah having her own buff as well, they almost instantly melted.
Who needs the other lanes, Kobe? Just going to take the tier 2. The Rift Herald hanging out. Oh no, Shelly.
With Rift Herald down, they might even go for inhibitor.
They're going for it. Condi going to threaten again. Has the ultimate ready. Maxlore also rank 2 ultimate for himself. Rift Herald charging in. A bit of chunk damage there to the turret, but not going to be enough.
The bottom lane of Misfits is struggling. They chose not to swap. They chose not to try and equalize the turrets. And instead, they stick around, and a great roam from Xiye extends the lead once again. Now, 2 of the big carries for Team WE are sitting on gold. They are really far ahead, and they're the ones that are extending this gold lead to 2K in favor of Team WE.
And now, as we said, they can rotate their support and AD carry to try and keep up that pressure. Look how close it was, too. The breaking point for the top and mid turret here for Team WE, both of them are extremely low. Misfits would like to collect some of that gold, but Xiye
has got the flash, but he doesn't need it just yet. The damage is almost there, but IgNar with the ultimate keeps himself alive.
That was very close, so close. You can see him
single digits there before the regen came in.
That was close. Big play from Xiye. Almost resulted in another kill. That would have slowed down Misfits significantly, and it still may well do, because Hansam, he doesn't feel confident enough to push by himself anymore.
He hasn't tried the corrupting potion too. I didn't see if he used it, but I wonder if that was the difference maker. That's how close that was. And you can see Misfits with a deficit. Vedius, you mentioned this before, but when they are behind, it is not pretty.
No, they really struggle to know what to do when they're in a deficit, largely because this is a team that's very controlled. They like to play the calm, calculated game, and when they have the lead, they know exactly what to do. But when the tempo isn't in their favor, it ends up in disaster, and they don't know how to react to the pressure.
Nope, currently they're up on the top side of the map, looking to knock over that top turret. It looks like they will be able to get it, and at least get some of this global gold for themselves, so not too far behind, but WE right down mid lane.
Yep, gonna try and take down yet another turret. Condi and Maxlore having a battle. Condi not gonna get stunned just yet, gonna rejoin his team as Alphari's been stunned up. Bruno on the Maokai, knockback for the arcade smash, and chains on chains on chains. Xiye takes him down, Featherstorm. He's gonna force Maxlore to flash out of the way.
With the front line here chunked out and taken down, Team WE might be able to really open up this map. One more minion wave annihilated here. And there goes that mid turret.
Great punish from Team WE, finding themselves a pick that actually resulted in a kill. Another one going over to Xiye right now, and they add a turret on top of that. Team WE displaying their dominance over the rookie squad of Misfits.
Yeah, Misfits got to be a little bit worried now with this deficit really increasing. And something you guys just brought up was kind of what do they do at that stage of the game when they start to lose control? Here's another look at how it happened though. Alphari literally just trying to walk up and get behind the turret. But again, we saw so many of those invades from Xiye where he was placing these wards. I believe that's even his control ward that he went in with one of his LeBlanc roams to the bottom side. And that was really in an area of control there for WE. They were really powering through the bottom side.
But you're exactly right, Kobe. The point you were just setting up was that often Misfits are a team that utilize the Baron a lot. They're very focused around in the mid-game, using it as a means to either force fights or force the enemy out of position, try and take advantage. And against Team WE, that's kind of a gamble, especially when you think back to Condi during the play.
Certainly
true.
It's been known.
An unreasonable amount of Barons with some unreasonable amount of skill shots and not even having to use Smite a lot of the time.
Yeah, certainly has. Condi, it's been his reputation for a long time, and he has shown that in play. WE up a few thousand gold, about 2,500 at this point. And the big boy Mystic is 2 items and counting. Xiye has had a lot of influence certainly in this game. He's working on, in fact, he's finished, excuse me, his second item in Morello Nomicon. But watch this, Xayah. Mystic is only getting stronger and stronger. That is quite the CS lead he's built as well. And there's a reason WE play around their bot laner.
Oh man, yeah, the CS really funding this build here. A lot of the spikes from Xayah even come earlier. You don't even have to have the Infinity Edge yet for those crits. So the cooldown reduction applied after just the first seal item is completed really allow a big DPS increase for her, because a lot of it comes from that blade collar and from the combination she's able to pull off. But as you said, already a BF sword into the next item here. It definitely could be the Mystic show.
Condi's going in, that's a knockup, gets IgNar instead. Hasaba tries to get out, but he's still got rooted by the Xayah. A double kill from Xiye! Bounces the Qs back and forth through Misfits, and now Alphari, he's caught in and amongst the rest of WE. There's another kill as Maxlore dives to Xiye for the triple kill.
Misfits get obliterated by Team WE. Fantastic play from Xiye. 5-0-0 right now on the LeBlanc, and their eyes are on the Baron.
Fully loaded ring there as well for him. 10 stacks. Baron should go down shortly for them, and Team WE are out to the race.
Well, this Baron should go over. Condi has a smite to spare, and Maxlore's dead for 15 seconds. Alphari cannot make it into the area from bot lane. WE secure the Baron.
Team WE, they're putting on a clinic right now. Fantastic performance, punishing these slight mistakes from the bottom lane of Misfits, and just not afraid to run away with it.
I mean, Misfits, yeah, they were running up to their own control ward there, but face first with Condi, and once again, Condi starts it off. He initiates, opens up this window for Xiye to go in, get the double execution on the back line, and then they chase down the extra kill here.
And I was thinking that, oh, maybe Misfits could still win the team fights later, because LeBlanc, she really struggles to kill the front line. She's not a great tank killer, but the job is made so much easier. She just kills the back line right from the start. You lose Hansam, you lose IgNar, and you can just see when you add on top of that an overfed Mystic, it's very easy to just shred through this Misfits lineup.
Yeah, LeBlanc getting some last hits there, but Mystic still putting in a lot of work.
That is an obscene amount of damage at this stage for a team fight, as Ben's going to sweep through a few wards, and WE continue their pressure. Mystic took down the top outer just earlier, so he's got that point also opened up. And Misfits, thank goodness they have a solitary tower, because WE were on track to perfect game them otherwise, and now assaulting the tier 2 in mid.
Yeah, in addition to this Baron buff, when your AD carry in this meta is pretty much a full item ahead of the enemy AD carry, and 2 levels, definitely difficult.
And again, still have Baron, which I did forget briefly, looking to pressure things down. PowerOfEvil gets a face full of feathers there from Mystic, who flashes the flare.
Gets the big shout from the crowd as well. Hansama jumps out, the Lulu ultimate is used, and Team WE are inside the base.
Going straight for the throat here as this bot inhibitor turret does fall. Bot inhib is soon to meet the same fate. And Misfits are starting to struggle as we approach the 30-minute mark. PoE's got the package, he wants to make a play, but there is no play to be made, it feels like.
Ooh, they're engaging.
All right, never mind. Condi, oh, he's going to go back in. He traps Maxlore in and amongst the Cataclysm and gets himself out of the way. A rupture is very nice and knocks up to the front of it. Snipes the backside for his 6th kill. Alphari gets flashed on and taken down by Mystic.
The crowd is going wild as Team WE continue their assault through the Misfits lineup, and already at 26.5 minutes into the game, they're looking to end it.
They're going to go for it. They've got Baron up for a minute 30. They've got a couple of crits. One turret falls a tornado, delays PowerOfEvil. Ultimate from 957. He's going to bring it home, and WE, under the roar of the crowd here in Wuhan, will win their first game of group stage.
Just listen to that crowd. Team WE absolutely shred Misfits there. Post 20 minutes, it was all things forward.
We did say there might be struggles if there was a deficit, and WE just playing the style they've been known for all year long. Clean, calculated, and a very decisive end to that game.
Mystic, very good carry performance there from him. DPS output was definitely there. Xiye, though, the one finding a lot of these picks, creating a lot of the burst damage and taking out key members of these team fights.
And I feel like that when you look at Misfits, one of the big reasons as to why so many analysts put them so low down in this group was just they didn't have that raw star power. They didn't have the individual talent to match up against some of the talent within their group. And I feel like today we saw that mismatch. Mystic and Ben, along with the support from Condi, really putting so much pressure down onto Hansama and IgNar, and the team never really did anything to try and support them or get them out of that situation.
And the level of competition here at Worlds is certainly tough. Misfits may have learned a little bit of that today here. I mean, they expected a tough game versus WE, but certainly back to the drawing board, want to be a bit more proactive. A strong showing in the early game, but it just felt like they were kind of waiting and hoping WE made a mistake, and this is not a team that makes very many.
That's the thing with this meta. You don't really get to see the big differences in the team in the early game.
Exactly.
So many teams are just content to farm it out, try and build up through the early game there. And then as soon as we hit 20 minutes, that's when we start to see the meaningful moves come through.
And you can just see Team WE. They have so much experience as a team. They know exactly how to play together. And that was a fantastic way to start off their group stages.
Certainly was. And with that, Team WE off to a good start in the group stage. So let's leave it to the analyst desk to break down that game.
Thank you very much, PastryTime. We have a stadium full of ecstatic fans here as W completes a near-perfect game, only dropping a single turret throughout the duration of that game and taking down Misfits.
Yeah, let's be clear, they just smacked Misfits around. It took 15 minutes to slow League of Legends where the junglers were not really being interactive. I feel like Maxlore continued to be non-interactive as Condi started to step up, and he found those opportunities to get in there.
Yeah, and this is the type of performance that the fans wanted to see yesterday from EDG against AHQ when they're favored in that group. And this is also what people were hoping W would do to the play-in regions in that tournament right there, because they had to go through that, and a lot of people were saying how underwhelming they looked. This was probably their best game so far at Worlds, including play-ins.
But it's also a kind of performance that Flash Wolves and TSM do not want to see, because the teams that struggle to close out a game back and forth into that late game are now looking at WE as a team that was snowballing very effectively.
And part of that snowball is Xiye on the LeBlanc, right? Looking at that Champions Select graphic there, takes it as the final pick for them in that rotation, and he performs.
Yeah, definitely some interesting things about the draft there. When we're thinking about picking a Janna in particular, we're saying that's going to go late game, but then they have LeBlanc, which means they have to win early, and they did in large part because Xiye was making so many accurate skill shots around the map aside from that one to get a bunch of kills.
And Xiye and LeBlanc are almost two words that are synonymous to one another. He had a pretty rough middle of the split. Xiye came back around week 8 or 9 and picked LeBlanc and suddenly looked like a star once again, comes back into the team, and he puts in so much work for Team WE, and a big part of why they looked so clean and so good in this game.
The composition just revolved around enabling him. The Janna typically is coupled with more control. Cassiopeia, the Syndras, the Orianas, but seeing the LeBlanc, we're wondering what's going to happen around the map. How is he going to pair with Jarvan? Jarvan just relegated to looking for Cloud Dragons and Heralds, but leaving LeBlanc to do everything that she wanted. Looks at a gold graph that, out of nowhere, ends the game.
Terrifying gold graph to see it spike like that around that 25-minute mark. But I want to return now to the conversation around the roster set up here by Team WE, right? We had Ben. We didn't really have an opportunity to talk about this leading into the match, but choosing to play Ben here in that support position. Talk to me, Rusty. What's going on with this substitution?
So Ben has been the starting support for most of the split. The only time we've seen Zero is at MSI, at Rift Rivals, and now at Worlds during the play-in stage. And for me, it's all speculation. We don't know exactly why. All we know from Team WE is that they like both of them, and it's an active sub decision. Ben's a fantastic player, and it feels like nerves might get to him when Zero comes in. And I like that they started Ben here to test the waters in group stage and say maybe there are nerves. Let's find out.
I guess arguably the weakest team in the group as well, so you can get past with a potential weaker player, get the nerves out of the way, have him get some more confidence when you're up against Flash Wolves and TSM.
And I thought they played well in that laning phase. I do have to criticize the Misfits laning phase a little bit for going with an Ignite Thunderlord's Lulu and then not actually pressuring the lane pretty much whatsoever. They had that one total whiff of a gank from Maxlore when he threw all of his spells in a straight line to hit nothing.
Right.
And then beyond that, he was just farming camps. So they never played around that bot lane, which you'd think they would want to play around based on the summoner and mastery choices.
Yeah, which is a very curious decision. We saw a lot of good vision control from the Misfits early. They should have known everywhere that Team WE were. And then that one lapse in judgment, that one good move by Condi, and things start to get upset. And it felt like Misfits, when they were just a little bit upset, lost all control and just went into turtle shell.
Well, and again, you know, you've got to wonder how much of that can be attributed to the fact that this is a very new organization to the international stage, right? And there might be a little bit of hesitation around going, you know, all out and throwing the game, you know, playing not to lose as opposed to playing to win.
It's not just an organization, though. They're going with a completely new style. They went with all about scaling. You've got Corki, Tristana. Where's the early game Misfits that we wanted to see? That didn't show up here. They were going with, how about we just wait for Corki and Tristana to have ardent sensors and win a team fight? Nothing else was being very proactive for them.
Right, it's something to be said. A lot of the EU casters, when they were talking about it, were saying that Misfits, this is the team that was constantly underestimated in the EU LCS, and that might be how they take games off the people here. Well, hey, if you're just going to sit back and farm and let the other team dictate
games
the
like
game,
that is why you are underestimated sometimes.
All right, well, there you have it. For more on Team WE's win, let's go ahead and hand it over to Shox for a word with their jungler.
All right, thank you very much. I'm here with Condi after that first crushing victory from Team WE after also running through the play-ins. Now, it seemed like Misfits were quite a comfortable opponent for you guys. What do you think of the other two teams in your group that you're going to face, Flash Wolves and TSM?
所以首先恭喜你们获得了胜利。然后呢，想问一下，你们刚刚跟 Misfits 打的话，打的还是蛮轻松的。那你觉得接下来里边小组里面 TSM 跟闪电狼的话，你怎么评价这两支队伍呢？
我觉得接下来闪电狼跟 TSM 这两支战队的压力会给我们非常大吧。今天看他们的比赛都打得非常的棒，就比赛也打了那么久，双方确实打得非常不错。
So the upcoming games with TSM and against Flash Rolls is going to bring us a lot of pressure. Because I was watching their games just now, and it was amazing games from very good teams, and they were playing for a very long time too. So yeah, it's going to be a hard game.
It was an intense matchup indeed. You guys being here at Worlds for Team WE, it is the first time in 5 years attending the World Championship, and on top of that, you guys are playing in front of your home crowd in China. Can you walk me through the fan support as well as the pressure and the motivation that comes with that?
所以距离上一次 WE 打到世界赛的话呢是5年前了。然后呢，今年你们来到了全球总决赛，然后同时呢又是在我们的今年是我们的主场，然后有后面很多粉丝的支持。那你觉得就是能不能带我们就是大概过一下，说你现在心里的感觉呢？
这么久以来经历了很多吧，也成长了很多，也有时候就会有那种失落，但最终还是挺过来了。这也非常感谢一直以来陪伴着我们的粉丝吧。
So throughout this whole journey, we have really grown a lot. We have learned a lot, and there have been a lot of disappointments on the road. But finally, we're here now, and I think this is all thanks to all the fans that has been supporting us all this time.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Condi, and we'll be looking forward to the next matches of Team WE. But right now, we're going to a break, and we'll be right back with Fnatic versus Immortals.
Which one is better?